Good morning, dear friends. I'm very happy to be here. This is Holy Saturday. I don't know about you, but to me it is a very strange day. Often you don't know what really to do with this day. Should I still be sad, like yesterday on Good Friday? Or is it allowed to prepare already everything for Easter Sunday? Maybe now you can think a moment about what you associate with Holy Saturday. So perhaps now you have a thought in mind, a memory, a question, or a feeling in your heart. Feel free to take this with you when you listen now to this talk. So, what will I talk about today to you? In the first part, I would like to talk about the spiritual meaning of Holy Saturday. And then, in a second step, we will connect this meaning to our personal experience. My first spontaneous idea when I was thinking about Holy Saturday in 2021 was, this is like lockdown for Jesus in the tomb. Perhaps you thought the same way, I don't know. But then in a second moment I thought to myself, no, that's actually not true at all. Why? Because usually we spend the lockdown at our home. Perhaps it wasn't really comfortable to us during this time to stay most at home, because our home is just too small. Some people have a balcony or a garden, others have not. But in any case, most of us spend this time in a place where we can feel safe. Jesus, in this situation, he is not at home, not at all. It's quite the opposite. On Holy Saturday, Jesus is exactly there where he does not belong. He is in death. God is life. So death is logically the opposite of God, the place where God is not present, does not belong. And the thing is, men who have separated from themselves from God, men who have turned away from the one who alone gives life, they will end up in death, in separation of God. So Jesus now in Holy Saturday is in a place where he actually cannot be. Normally he cannot be there. And he's there for us. So the second person of Holy Trinity kind of separated himself from the others to be far from God, from his own nature. That's absurd. And it's not easy to explain this theologically. You remember that at the cross, Jesus feels abandoned by the Father. It's not because the Father stopped to love his Son. He still loves him. It's because Jesus wanted to be with those who are separated from God. I would like to give you a bit of the context of what we are actually going through during these days. Easter is the turning point of God's whole project of redemption. And I want to make it visible for you in a very simplified way. So this is heaven. And this is earth. God, the creator of heaven and earth, he is in heaven. Man, his creature, he is walking around down on earth, so here. And he has his typical problems. And you see that there is a big distance between both. That's the starting point of this project of redemption. And now the following happens. You remember the talk yesterday? We heard about that beautiful verse, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life." So it's the Gospel of John 3:16. And in the Creed, we say about the Son, "For us men and for our salvation, he came down from heaven." So the Son, through the action of Holy Spirit, of course, is coming down. And he's becoming man. We know this story from Christmas. So God comes close to us and he enters in a close relationship with us. And all this story, you know that. But it is important to know that coming down to earth is not enough for God. We continue in the Creed. He descended to the dead. He descended into hell, down to the underworld. So this is absolutely the low point. So in the Creed, we trace this journey, the journey that the Son is doing for us. Yeah, we say it in the Creed. God is the creator who comes down from heaven for us human beings and for our salvation. And he was condemned to death and he descended to hell. So from here to there, the journey went always downward. Jesus goes down into death for us to conquer it and to save us. And this is exactly where we are today on Holy Saturday. And this Holy Saturday now becomes the turning point of the whole thing. Because this journey is not a one-way street. It's not ending here. It's not the goal of all that God enters into death, dividing himself, which is an absurdity. No, the whole project is made to save us because we are here. In the Creed, we say next, on the third day, he rose again. You are probably familiar with this Orthodox icon. I hope you can see it. Of the resurrection of Christ. It shows precisely that resurrection is more than simply a magical event in which Jesus shows how powerful he is so that we admire him. If that were the case, then it would get boring at some point, because we have seen it so many times before. Every year we see it. No, the resurrection, or this resurrection icon shows, that Jesus does not rise alone. He has Adam and Eve at his hand. They are the biblical first parents of all people. And in this icon, they represent all of us whom Jesus, by his resurrection, brings out of death. And what is important here, I come back here, is that he does not simply bring them back to the world, into normal life here on earth. That is what he did before with Lazarus. No, he takes Adam and Eve with him into the divine community. The journey goes all the way back to heaven. So this is actually the journey of redemption, with the low point here. And that is exactly what God intends to do with us today. Easter has something to do with me and with you, with us. I already said the resurrection is not a magical trick that we watch every year again like a movie. If we celebrate Easter again every year, and if we have Sunday again every week, it's for getting ourselves more and more involved in this universal event of redemption. Every Easter, each and every one of us is taken out of his tomb a little bit. We are living often in our daily life. We are spending moments in debt. We are spending moments separated from God. And he wants to bring us back into life and into his community. And Holy Saturday is actually the day when everything turns. Even if we cannot see it because it's here hidden in the tomb. So this first part was already a little preview of Easter, of tomorrow. But today we have to enter the fact that it is still Holy Saturday. I don't know about you, but I don't find this day very easy. We have to wait. We have to hold out. Easter is not until tomorrow. And that's actually what is so special about this day. Because we have to live exactly this situation of waiting very often in our normal life. You know that. We have to endure that something is not there yet. That something is different than I would actually like it to be. Or I have to restrain myself from doing something. These are feelings we can associate with Holy Saturday too. And I want to talk to you about a behavior or a virtue that I'm not really sure to have the perfect daily life English word, as I'm not a native English speaker. I think you hear that. But I think most of you aren't native speakers neither, so I hope that you will understand what I mean. I want to talk about enduring something or to hold out. You can also say to bear something or to withstand or to persevere. In German, I would simply say aushalten. And I would like to give you a few examples, some from everyday life, some from our lives as a whole, our whole biography. We only need to remember last Lent, so the last 6 weeks. For us Christians, this is a time in which we want to concentrate ourselves on the essentials, in which we want to renounce to some things in order to become free from them. So, no meat, no beer, no chocolate, all these things, perhaps. And yet, at least here in Germany, the supermarkets during this time are full of Easter eggs. And honestly, this in lockdown times was really mean, because in Germany, going to the supermarket became that big event during the week. So, and then you always walk beside these tempting Easter eggs and you think, no, it's Lent and it's not Easter. Yeah. So, if I could see you all now, I would ask you to raise your hands. Honestly, who could not stand, not renounce to buy Easter eggs yet? But the thing is, we can count on Easter coming. Perhaps we didn't know exactly how it would be or in what form we could have liturgy until just before. But nevertheless, Easter is in the calendar, and it will take place anyway. Many other important things in our lives are not on our calendar. We don't know when they will come and if they will come at all. Will it work out with the study place, with the job? Will I find the right apartment? When will I meet Mr. Right or Lady Perfect? When will I get answer to my questions about vocation? We have to endure this waiting and not knowing during our life. And there are also everyday situations that have to be endured. For example, a visit to a dentist, or especially for the Germans, a highway construction site. For the parents of small children, there are many situations, for example, when the child wants to eat by himself for the first time, and half of the food is going everywhere. Yeah? So parents have to accept this situation because the child has to learn. Or when I get put on hold at a telephone hotline, or the weather that is too cold or too hot. Of course, the most recent example now is the lockdown. There were so many things that are important to us, and they weren't possible in this time. I think that was relatively similar in all the countries that you're listening from now. And maybe being alone, we are much more confronted with ourselves or the people right around us, and we have to endure that. These are situations where we just have to hold out. Situations that we can't change, but that also somehow have a good goal. It's worth entering them. And we know it, so this helps us. But there are also very difficult situations in our lives that we have to endure, sometimes for a very long time, and where is it not so clear what the goal is. And we can only endure them. So, for example, when we are in grief because of the death of a beloved one, or when we live a failure, when I have been hurt in my past, certain wounds that I take with me into my life. When my life has turned out differently than I thought. And maybe I also have to endure that my well-intended prayer is not answered. I think, for example, of a friend who is enduring her depression. She may never get rid of it. Again and again, she has to fight. Again and again, everything seems hopeless to her. And I have to tell you that I admire her for holding out again and again until the sun shines again. She is an example for me when I myself sometimes wonder how things will go on or why something has come to this. I believe that this endurance, this holding out, can be an opportunity for us to connect with Jesus. He also endured, for example, the unfair process and the torture on Good Friday. And he holds out also today, this day in death. This day in a place where he doesn't belong at all. And he endures for us. Of course, and this is important to me to say, there are also situations in which we are called to work ourselves for a change, where we are not called just to stay there and to wait, but to change the situation. Jesus also changed things in certain situations. For example, when he expelled the merchants out of the temple. This is very clear. But today here, I want to focus on the situations that we sometimes experience that cannot be changed, and in which our freedom is to voluntarily endure and to bear that situation in a good way. Our freedom is to say yes, to hold out. God also endures somehow with us. That's actually amazing. There's a prayer in the liturgy that says, God, you love your creatures, and it is your joy to live among the humans. Actually, this is a literal translation from the German version of that prayer. If you want to check it out, you can ask a priest to show you the collect prayer of the 6th Sunday of Ordinary Time. This year, that was February 14. And it refers to a verse from the Old Testament, Proverbs 8, verses 30 to 31. To me, this sentence, it is your joy to live among the humans, is really amazing. Because one might ask why the perfect God actually wants to be with the imperfect people. We know ourselves how difficult it is sometimes with us and how quickly we get on each other's nerves. What must it be like for God, who is perfect? And we know that when Jesus appeared to Sainte Marguerite Marie Alacoque in Paray-le-Monial, almost 350 years ago, he told her how much it pains him that we ignore his presence in the Eucharist and how much he wants to be loved back by us. And this means that God remains with us despite all of this. He does it very concretely in the Eucharist. He enters with us even if we ignore him, insult him, forget him. Because he wants to be there for us. Because he wants to talk to us. So, if today we feel this Holy Sunday to be long and demanding, then we can make ourselves aware of what actually happens on that day. That Jesus endures death for us. That God holds out with us in order to save us, to bring us back to heaven. And what a gift that actually is. We have now looked at the spiritual meaning of Holy Saturday as the turning point of salvation and at this inner attitude of perseverance or endurance. And both, so the spiritual meaning and this attitude, have to do with a radical change. In the case of salvation, it is very clear. Through what Jesus has done, we no longer belong to death, but to life. It's a radical change. And with this endurance, it is just that I wish for such a change. But it doesn't come yet. Or at least it still takes time for it to come. I don't even know if it will come at all. And it can even be that I get so used to this situation that then I am completely surprised when the change is coming and it is then difficult to deal with it. I remember when it was like a year ago when the first openings came after the first hard lockdown in Germany. We had just become used to this situation and somehow found a good way of functioning. And then, suddenly, things changed again and we were suddenly quite unsure again what we are allowed to do and what not. And this situation of change was quite exhausting. Quite more exhausting than the lockdown. Just as entering is exhausting, so then change can also be exhausting. So tomorrow, Easter Sunday, we are facing a total change. We celebrate Jesus rising from the dead and that he is taking us with him. The liturgy will suddenly be very different. We will no longer fast, but feast. We will sing different songs than last week. And if it's really true that on Easter we are not celebrating something that happened in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. If it's really true that Jesus' resurrection has something to do with my life again this year, then I can expect a change to happen in my life as well. This year in 2021. Maybe something small, maybe something big. In any case, I can give testimony to you that I have already experienced very strong changes on Easter. Sometimes not on Easter Sunday, but on Easter Monday, because Jesus was merciful with me and gave me a little bit more time to accept the change. So Easter is not a celebration for those who are already holy and happy. Easter is for those among us, I think for all, who need conversion, who need a new life, a new hope, and a new future. So I would like to invite you today to join this journey and to be aware of this turning point. You can ask yourself, where is my Holy Saturday in my life? Where am I in the ground right now? What do I have to endure? And where does Jesus want to take me out of the tomb on this Easter? Where does he want to give me a change towards life? Today, let us really experience this endurance. Let us be aware of where we are, and let us prepare ourselves for the change. Let us allow Jesus to bring resurrection also into our hearts. Thank you.